Second half of the lab that we'll work on today is the Hsl Split Tone Lab, and there's two parts. One using hue, saturation, lightness, and the second using split tone techniques. So we'll open up the split toning one first. The split toning lab requires you to work with black and white photography and to choose two hues or two colors to add to the shadows and the highlights that you think will be interesting. And you just need to do two versions or two different images. Show me the before and after. Save the first one as your name split tone 1 and the second one your name split tone 2, and put them in a folder called Lab 7 Split and your name, and put it in the Dropbox. So let's take a look at the split tone panel. Here I am back in my library. I'm going to choose a couple of pictures to work with. They can already be in black and white, or you may need to convert them to black and white using techniques that we learned in previous assignments. So I'm going to just go ahead and control click or command click on my Mac my black and white images, and I'm going to go ahead and migrate to the develop module. So here I have an image in black and white. I'm going to go ahead and look at it in the loop view. It's already been converted to black and white here. If you need to, you can go ahead and convert your image first into black and white. And notice that I'm in the third panel down in the black and white panel. So the first part is making sure your image is in black and white. Then I'm going to close that and open up the split tone panel. Split toning refers to an old darkroom technique where two metal toners were used, a sepia toner for the highlights, and then we wash thoroughly in a water bath, and then we put the image in a second toner, which is a selenium toner that enriches the shadows and makes the print archival. So that's what split toning refers to. It's a leftover darkroom terminology. So I'm going to show you a very traditional treatment for split toning. You don't have to do this same treatment, but this is the one that you'll see most often in the world. The first thing I like to do is work on the highlights. Let's turn the saturation up so we can see the color. In a traditional split tone, the highlights are a sepia color, like that. And then if you want something that's a lot more subtle, you can turn the saturation down. So if we look at the before and after, you'll see that this one is a black and white tone, but if I roll over the image with my cursor and we look at the RGB values, the first set of numbers is what it was before we toned it, and the second set of numbers indicate what it is now. So you can see that there's a little more yellow. Yellow is the opposite of blue. If it's weak in blue, it's strong in yellow. And it's also stronger in red, which indicates a slight warmth to the highlight areas. Okay. The second thing we're going to do is adjust the shadows. And in traditional split toning, the shadows are a purple color. So I'm going to increase the saturation of the image so that I can see, or increase the saturation of the color so I can see it. Then I'm going to adjust the shadow to be a purpley blue. And that's pretty interesting looking, but it's a little too strong for me, so I'm going to turn it down. So what we have here is a traditional sepia tone, which references traditional black and white photography, where the highlights are a sepia color named after the sepia bath, and the shadows are a selenium or purplish color named after the selenium bath. After we've done our black and white adjustments and our split toning, you might want to go back into the basic panel and tweak the histogram, leaving on the clip warning signals here, and adjusting those shadows and adjusting those highlights slightly. Then you're going to show the before and after. Make sure to show me the adjustments that you did here in Hsl, or I'm sorry, excuse me, in the split toning module here. Make sure to show that off. Do a screen grab and turn it in name it according to the directions on the handout. So that's part 1, split toning. Part 2 works with HSL, or HSL stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. And you're going to do 2 images working with the HSL panel in the same way that we worked with the split toning panel. 2 images, 2 screen grabs showing the before and after. Let's take a look at HSL. Relaunch Lightroom here. HSL, hue, saturation, and luminance. Hue is the actual color of the image. Blue, green, red, brick red, cherry red, hot pink, hot magenta. Those all indicate the hue of an image. I'll go ahead and work on this picture here. HSL can be done before or after your basic panel adjustments. Generally, it's done after. And to modify an image's hue means to modify the actual colors in an image. So I could shift the red color to an orange, for example, or I could shift the orange color over to a red, for example, or the yellow over to a more yellow adjustment. The green, back and forth here. And the HSL panel works with what's called the targeted adjustment tool. So as you take the targeted adjustment tool and roll over certain areas, notice how the color of that area lights up. So I can click and drag straight on the image, and it will affect whatever area I'm actually on. Or I can simply just go back over here and roll over the area. This is used a lot in catalog photography, and then I'm double clicking to take it back to 0. In catalog photography, where you just need to adjust the color of a shirt really quick, this is used a lot. So adjusting an image's hue. You have to be careful, because sometimes if we go too far, we can actually increase the saturation of the image and it won't print correctly. So I just went ahead and hold down my space bar, clicked, zoomed in, and checked out to make sure everything still looked okay. I'm not having any artifacting. The saturation of the image is not the same as hue. Hue is shifting the actual color. Shift is modifying, or saturation is modifying the purity of the color. So again, I can use the targeted adjustment tool to indicate the color that I want. Maybe I'll switch images here. Maybe I want to modify this color, and you see the blue is selected. So I can actually click in the sky and drag to the left, and you see that the blue sliders are actually becoming desaturated. So to desaturate a color means to take away color from the image, or to introduce more black, white, and gray by decreasing the purity of a color. And Lightroom allows you to target an image's particular color according to how it's mapped here. And I could also then take away the green if I wanted to in the image. But notice when I take out the green, these don't go away, because if I roll over here with my targeted adjustment tool, Lightroom actually sees this greenish area as more of a yellow. So now if I take out the yellow, I could put back the blue sky. Now the bushes are desaturated. So saturation, purity of color. All right? The luminance of a particular color, I'll find another blue sky image, maybe this one here. It's a little strange, a strange bit of an angle. How about this one again? The luminance indicates a color, how bright or how dark a particular color is. So notice that it goes from dark to light for every color. Again, you can use the targeted adjustment tool and roll over the sky to target a particular color, and I could click and drag if I wanted to lighten or darken the blue sky, or I could go down here and simply darken it. This is really tempting to do because we like these very dramatic skies, but again, if I hold down my space bar and zoom in, you want to make sure that you're not getting any of this haloing or an increase in noise, because what this does is it targets the blue channel and darkens or lightens it, and sometimes that brings out unwanted noise. So I think I'm just going to back off a little bit, like that. So I can still darken it down quite a lot, but I just want to make sure that I don't introduce any unwanted noise. Okay? In the same way you can darken a particular color, we can lighten a particular area too. So remember, these bushes were yellowish, and we can lighten them slightly. See how it's getting lighter or darker in the landscape. And that can be a really effective way to lighten or darken a particular color. So I can go ahead and brighten up the reds and the oranges in this image, and the yellow. So the goal behind this lab is to become more familiar with both split toning in the earlier lab down here, split toning a black and white image, and then also working with the images hue, saturation, and luminance. And then we'll take a screen grab. We'll do 2 of these and turn them in according to the instructions here in the lab. So make sure to reference the instructions. It goes through it pretty clearly, and let me know if you have any questions.